Well, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. WeatherBrains episode 919 for August 28th, 2023. This is the pre-show, the magical, marvelous time where we do three things. We share boring personal stories, humorous anecdotes, and from time to time, we say some really outrageous things. A lot to talk about, needless to say, with the tropics active. I mean, come on, it's the end of August. They ought to be active. Got one tropical storm, one hurricane. Of course, the one that will be affecting the United States in terms of weather is, and now we'll talk about the name of this. I've heard, goodness, at least 5 different ways of pronouncing this. I believe it is Idalia. Idalia. Some people are saying Idalia. Some people are saying Idalia or Idalia. But if you look at the hurricane pronunciation guide, it's double E, so it starts with E. Despite the fact that it's an I storm. And then D-A-L. And in my world, that's Dal, like Dallas. If it's Dal, it's D-A-H-L. But in the pronunciation guide from the Hurricane Center, it's D-A-L. Idalia. That's what I'm saying. But who knows? I'm just some guy from rural South Alabama that doesn't know much about that kind of stuff. So I know we're going to be joined with Mark Sutta tonight. He's down in Florida in the hurricane warning zone. He'll be on the show tonight. We'll pick him up, I think, a little after 8 o'clock Central, if he's able to do that. We all listen. If you've never worked a hurricane in the landfall zone, it's pretty intense. I used to do it frequently when I was a young man. And back in those days, hardly anybody did it. I mean, it was, now there's a circus of TV anchors and reporters and meteorologists and storm chasers, and there's a mob. But during the good old days of storms like Frederick and Eloise and some of those years ago, and even for example, Andrew, the second landfall in Louisiana, I was there for that. There was hardly anybody there. But now it's a different world. And for me, it's just typically better to stay up here on the green wall. All right, Jen, you're locked and loaded, ready to go.
How are you?
Got some action going on here.
Is busy. Yeah, I'm glad we're going to have Mark on tonight to give us an update from Florida. So that'll be good.
Yeah. That is like awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see. Can you see that?
Yep, I sure can.
The sun is going down on our tropical system. Now you are a professional broadcaster. Look, my first major in college was electrical engineering. I ventured into meteorology, never took any communication classes.
Mm-hmm.
So the argument is how you say the name of this. And as I read it, just this old guy from rural South Alabama, I read it as Idalia, like Dow, D-A-L, like Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody else is saying Idalia. So what's right? You're the professional here.
I've been saying, well, now I don't know. What have I been saying? Because now I got to think about it. I think I've been saying, Hi, Katie.
Hello.
All right, so we'll bring Katie in too, because this is important. We're trying to figure out how do you say this tropical storm, because it's said different ways. I think I've been saying Idalia.
Yeah, Idalia.
Okay. Idalia.
Well, wait a minute now. Wait a minute. So let's review this. And again, I'm just this is not my deal. I'm not a broadcaster, even though I've been doing it for a long time. So I look at the NHC pronunciation. It says EE-DAL-YA. And in my world, when you put DAL, it's Dal, like Dallas.
Right.
If it's Dal, it's DAHL. So I've been saying Idalia. But everybody said, "Ooh, no!" I heard on the network that they're not saying that. Well,
all right,
so
you know who I listened to? Jamie Rome over at Hurricane Center yesterday.
yeah. What does he say?
Idalia. I kept saying it over and over again because I have stations I have to say this. Idalia. So I listened to him. But I have heard it the other ways too.
If he said it, then that makes it official. But it just would seem to me that in the pronunciation guide, if it's Dahl, it would be Dahl instead of Dal. But it doesn't matter. You know, I'm afraid if we get too hung up on pronouncing the name of this, the messaging of the system itself will be lost. Who cares what the name? We could call it Bob or Fred or something. I mean,
you know,
we need to get Dr. Kim on here and address this, because I've heard more people literally talking about how to pronounce this thing than the actual impact on humans, which is like insane. It's like the Isaias thing, you know, that was a problem.
Yes.
And, so it's just like, anyway.
So you're saying you're saying Dow?
Dow, like Dallas, but again, you know.
No, but others are saying that. I know, because my best friend who does this too, and she lives down in Venice, and she's watching this closely. She said she was making it sound like Vidalia. So Idalia. That's how she's saying it.
To me, Dallas, D-A-L, Dallas. I used to work in Dallas. And I went to our senior news person here that's really good at this stuff, and she said it's Dow. That's the way. If that's the pronunciation guide, it's Dow, and that's what they're saying. The news people are saying here. But then, you know, you get all the haters. Hey, man, you're saying it wrong. And I've got a cousin named it's Idalia. And it's like, oh, please. It's just like, anyway, we'll see. I wanted to get this malarkey out of the way before the show started. So this is the outrageous part. So we've got Rick out and Dr. Neil Jacobs is out. I think, and Bill Murray apparently is out. What was it? Pub crawl again?
I think he's out in Atlanta.
Yeah, he went back to Buckhead, which is where he was not that long ago. So he's gone back to Buckhead for his.
He's at some honky tonk up there, you know, listening to Leonard Skinner, and I don't, you know, so he's out. But I think everybody else is in. So and again, Mark's going to join us in about an hour or so, Jen.
Yeah, he's going to do about a quarter after, and then a second hour. So yeah, Katie, hold on for that, because it's Mark Suddeth from Hurricane Track is going to join us to talk about that storm down there that we can't say.
At least it's only one storm, and we don't have like two that are going to hit the US, because then that just becomes names and everything just gets even worse.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're going to hit the TV side here in 10 seconds.
Right.
And Katie, just so you'll know, we're live on the YouTube and TV.
Brilliant.
And right now, welcome to those watching on the television side. It's Monday night, time for the Monday night weather party. We'll start this show here in just a second. I know we have some active storms, and you might have been watching radar, but there's nothing severe. We don't have any flash flood warnings in effect, but I'll be keeping one eye on that and one eye on the show here. And here comes Troy. Katie, talk to me for a minute. Give me a mic check.
Absolutely. Mic check. 1, 2, 3. Hello. Hope you're having a nice evening.
Are you always this energetic, or?
Oh, yes. And I've been up since midnight. So.
Oh, well.
And I can't drink coffee. So this is just like sugar and charisma.
So you go on the morning shift tomorrow, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I took a nap. It's fine.
No, I've not slept since 1973, so it's no big deal. All right, well, let's get this started here, because we got a lot to talk about. So let's hit recorder 1, track 2, and here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. WeatherBrains is on the air. WeatherBrains episode number 919 for the 28th of August, 2023. And man, we got a lot going on here in the weather world, a lot to talk about. But I want to start. Let's go down to Troy. Troy was not on the show last week because he went into spontaneous combustion and had to go to a local hospital, but he's back. Troy, have you cooled down at all?
Not really. But I think, we were only 187 today. It's the warmest temperature ever recorded on the face of the earth.
Goodness. What it's none of my business, but I'm nosy. Like what's a average person's power bill run in Austin after weeks of this for a month?
I don't know exactly. I'm pretty careful about this place. But remember, I'm pretty much here by myself. Power bill by myself here is right now about 350, 400 a month. But I hear people who's in the thousands.
Yeah, no, I let me tell you what,
that yard is dead out there. I will tell you that. I haven't watered that since the spring. I'm not going to. So,
I don't. At some point, you just give up. You know,
you do, and I have given up.
I'm
here,
done with it.
Yep.
Well, at some point, your day will come. The heat broke here. You know, we've been on the periphery of this thing. You know, it kind of noses in here and then it moves back. Noses in here, moves back.
Well,
so
you were like, you would get to 100 one day and the next day you'd blow Birmingham away. I mean, you get a thunderstorm on the periphery, in the ring of fire. And I would give anything for ring of fire. We came close to it last night and we blew things down. We had some pretty strong winds last night in the Austin area, but actually today, I think we were right at 100, but yesterday we were 110. So,
wow. So Troy, I think we should celebrate because it's a big day. James ate a lot here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the birthday boy.
Yeah,
Birthday boy. Yep. Yes.
I do like the hat. Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Okie James. Yeah.
So give us a speech. Go. I mean, let's hear it. You're the birthday boy. You're the guest of honor.
All scurrilous allegations spread by my political enemies.
How old are you, buddy? 36 or 37?
37 again. Yes.
There you go. Okay,
I know.
good.
It's a good year.
Wow.
I pick it.
Yep.
Wow. Now, I think you should, for those that are listening, and most people listen, of course, but he's got a good, you're rocking that hat. I mean, you're working that hat. That's a good look for you. I think you should wear that on the air tonight.
Oh, he will. Yeah.
Yeah, it's already seen its appearance on Fox 23 News this evening and probably will again, because usually I take my birthday off from work just to avoid such shenanigans. But with NWA coming and a couple of other days off, I didn't want to overly burden the rest of the team. And I didn't think about it until the last minute. So here I am working on my birthday. And now the weather's fantastic. So I wish I would have ordered this weather here every other time my birthday, I took my birthday off. But here I am at work and it's no humidity and in the 80s outside. Sorry, Troy.
That's all right. By the way, Kim's joining us now, and I want to see the look on her face when she sees the Okie James cap. So.
Yeah, Kim is joining us here, and I pulled a good stunt for my birthday. We were married on my birthday, so
really
the anniversary birthday. It's really worked. And understand, we've been married for 42 years. I have never forgotten the anniversary, never, because of the birthday deal. It really worked out well. I mean, it worked out just wonderfully. June the 6th, birthday, anniversary, all the same day. You know, some have their birthday on Christmas or some special day, but that's the way it worked out for us. So Kim will be on. Kim's trying to get her camera up and running and her audio up and running. And I hear you.
Audio, I think, works okay.
I hear you, but I don't see you.
Got to see Kim. Yeah.
And then the cone of silence.
Most people,
you know, it almost sounds like a bandwidth issue, and the audio's a little typically lower quality. Yeah, so you might want to pull out that 9600 baud modem and kick it up a notch from the 1200 baud. And nobody listening to this show even knows what that means. No. But while we're getting Kim on, and by the way, we should mention that we've got Rick Smith is out, Dr. Neil Jacobs is out, Bill Murray is out, but Jen, you are in, and you're going to be running the show. So let's introduce our guest before she hangs up on us.
That's right. So tonight's guest weather brain is a suggestion of listener Kevin Gabriel. She is an Emmy Award-winning CBS morning meteorologist for WLNS in Lansing, Michigan. She has used her platform on TikTok, YouTube to spread weather awareness, as well as more fun stuff like fandom forecasts, And I saw plenty of kitty forecasts too, which we're going to talk about too. She recently became CBM number 918. Katie Nicolau, welcome to WeatherBrains.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, so glad to have you. And I'm just going to confess right now, I am not a TikToker. I do not have TikTok on my phone, but I did.
That's probably for the best.
Although, no, I checked your account out and you had me cackling on some of your TikToks. They were very good. I liked your PSAs on don't sleep naked during tornado season. Think twice before eating snowflakes.
Whoa, that's a show title right there. We've got our first show title candidate.
That's
don't
right.
sleep naked during tornado season. All right.
Very good PSA. And then think twice before eating snowflakes. And then I also caught your hero's journey. So I want to start there and go, let's just talk about your journey. Start talking about what got you interested in weather, and then talk about your education and just, what it was like growing up, knowing that you loved weather and wanted to do something about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. The nice thing for me is, like most meteorologists, my journey started when I was little. I was born in 1996, so I'm just a baby. But when I was I see the sighs and groans and pain in your eyes. But when I was about 5 years old or so, just early 2000s, we didn't have phones. My family was driving back from the other county to our east, and there was a tornado. It was night. We didn't know what was going on. And we pulled off under an overpass. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. We know better now. But we pulled off, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I loved the lightning and the wind. And my parents didn't think that was weird. So they just fostered my love of weather by giving me books and letting me watch the Weather Channel, and just that grew and grew and grew. And then in 2011, my house was in another tornado, which, mind you, this is in Michigan, Battle Creek, Michigan. So you get 2 tornadoes in one lifetime, let alone in 10 years. You either take that as God wants to kill you, or it's a sign you should be a meteorologist. And that's
sounds like Kim. It's like you. I mean, good Lord. I mean, there's a good tornado in Norman every week,
There you go. Battle Creek, Michigan. No, it's so much fun being in Michigan, and like lake effect snow plus severe weather. That's what really made me want to do this. And I happened to find that Valparaiso University was right down the road. And I thought, heck yeah, this is great. They have a convective field study and they have all these amazing professors. So I jumped on that chance. And for 4 years, I got to do convective field studies out in the plains, and I got to do their TV studio, which this personality does not do well behind a desk. So being a broadcaster is kind of the natural course. And so after that, I went out to Sioux City, Iowa for 3 years, which is kind of on its own to start with. And then you add a pandemic on top of it, and boy, you get stir crazy. So TikTok was the outlet, naturally evolved into doing just chaotic stuff, spreading the good word of weather. And then recently, about almost a year ago now, I was able to come back home to Lansing, Michigan, and I've been rocking it here ever since.
Hey, I hate to be the one that brings this up first, but 2 tornadoes in Battle Creek sounds like a serial problem.
Brother, please.
This is what the chat's like every Monday night.
Fantastic.
So if you wonder what's wrong with us, that's because of this.
If you want to know something crazy, not even just with the tornadoes, if you get a northwest wind in Battle Creek in the summer, Fruit Loops are like, they were made, at least when I was a kid, that sugar would go up to the smokestacks and the wind would blow it, and everything in town would be coated in a thin layer of Fruit Loops sugar. You could go and lick your car handle and it was like free Fruit Loops.
What?
You never did that, Katie, right? Just checking.
I choose not to answer.
Willy Wonka's chocolate factory.
That's right.
Yeah. But you see, it's a gamble because we also make dog food in town. So you're really taking a risk.
I never knew that I should be jealous of Battle Creek, Michigan. I'm from the South Bend area, but when I was growing up, if the wind blew from the wrong direction, what we got was the ethanol plant. So yeah, that smells like dog food. Actually, it's a very close correlate there. But yeah, that's living in corn country. That's all we had. But we never envisioned that Michigan had it all that much better. I will say, being downwind of Fruit Loops factory, that just sounds awesome.
Oh, it's so great.
That's awesome. So talk a little bit more about your schooling and, just the different classes that you took. What did you like? What didn't you like? How could you encourage other students with school and all that stuff? So what did you like about it?
Oh, well, initially, I always loved math and science because I was able to get it. That's just how my brain was wired until calculus showed up. But that's down the road. And starting out in elementary school, you enjoy most of the classes. And then I actually hit a bit of a road bump in middle school. Believe it or not, I actually had such horrible anxiety, I wouldn't even leave my house. I just like crippling anxiety for 2 years. I skipped school. It was awful. The bullying was terrible. So if anyone here is watching and you're in middle school, it does get better, because I found my way to get through that is, of course, enjoying the weather, but also Star Trek, which is something that is just as big in my life as the weather. It helped me think logically and think through my issues. And both of those, Star Trek followed me on my journey to meteorology because it's science, women in Star Trek, women in science, it goes hand in hand. And that got me through high school. I was a majorette in marching band. And if you throw metal sticks, all of a sudden the bullies go away. So it's great. But in college, Valpo, immediately started out with calc. It was fine. And then you hit physics. And that was a huge roadblock. I got a D in physics and I thought it was the end of the world because I got 4.19 in high school. I was like, oh, we're cruising. I'm going to get this MET degree in no time. And as soon as you hit that first class that just doesn't click, I think a lot of meteorology students, you think I'm a failure, or you have a professor, if they're not in the program most of the time, who are like, hey, this might not be for you. Don't let it stop you. Take what you need from that class and apply it to your program. If something shows up and say dynamics that you didn't get from physics, ask the dynamics professor to explain it in physics terms. They're a professor, they're there to help you. And most of the time they're really incredible and they absolutely will. And, life isn't all A's. You can still learn even once you graduate, go back and relearn the topics if you weren't doing great with them. I've gone back and learned how light moves through lenses, never using that in my life, but hey, if you want to go back and relearn things, absolutely do that. And you can still graduate without a 4.0 and get a job.
Exactly. I took physics 3 times, but I have no interest of going back and doing physics. I'm just going to let you know right now.
I still have the physics textbook in the basement, and I'm debating on if I want to burn it or learn from it. It's a tricky balance.
Yeah, I use mine to hold my microphone when it works great. It's so thick.
It's good ballast in the back of your car when there's ice in the roads.
You tear out a couple of pages if you need friction.
Exactly. So, Katie, as I was looking at your TikTok, and then of course I saw your hero's journey, and you mentioned, struggling with being bullied for, being nerdy, and for, your struggle with anxiety and all that kind of stuff. Talk about, just as comfortable as you want to, that journey and encouragement, because you're bubbly and you're excited and you love what you do. And so you've gotten on the other side of it, just share with us your outlook, after going through all that, because bullying is such a huge thing for not only middle schoolers, but middle agers. I mean, it doesn't matter. Social media is like the land of bullies sometimes. So kind of talk about your experience.
Yeah. So initially when you start out in life, kids are okay. Preschool, you just want to play with toys, but then you get towards middle school and you start to get personalities and you get hormones, and that doesn't leave when you become an adult. And I think that's something I wish I would have known when I was going through that in middle school, because you're always going to have some interesting people. For my experience, the person always told me that I looked like I was sick or I was sickly or something. And that made me start to fear germs, and germs are everywhere. So that's why I started skipping school. And I got to a point where I wasn't eating. I became pretty much anorexic at that point, just because I thought food would make you throw up. And God bless my parents. They stuck with me through all of that, and they got me through therapy and everything. And you find a point where even if you're in therapy or you're talking with people, you do hit almost a rock bottom. And it's not always rock bottom. It can be a trampoline. You have that choice. You can go splat or you can boing back up. And I made the conscious choice that I was missing stuff and I don't want to miss stuff. I want to be here for what happens. And so I chose the trampoline route. And I think that's why you're seeing the person that I am today, is because I know what it's like to be so miserable and so scared of everything. And I don't want anyone to feel like that. So if I can be happy and I can smile at 4:30 in the morning when saying it's going to be pouring rain all day, that might be the one happy face that someone sees in their day. And that that makes me feel good. And that just adds on to the serotonin of me being happy. And it's just, it adds on top of itself continuously. So once you get on the track of feeling happy or making someone else happy, just keep going, because it's going to keep getting better. And if you need to talk to anyone, weather_Katie, Twitter, TikTok, whatever realm you're on, send me a message. Like I said, I work the morning shift. I'm up when most people aren't. If you need to talk, I'm here for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you handle now? I mean, because you're all over social media, and how do you handle the bullies that are on social media, which because they just love to be there? How do you?
Oh,
do you,
yeah.
do you get a lot of that? How do you handle it?
Yeah, I get a lot of it. A lot of it stays behind the curtain just because, gosh, it would be depressing if it wasn't. But sometimes, you get a couple messages and you just want to call them out for the sake of your mental health and to show that this happens, because for so long, people are like, oh, you're on TV, you're rich, you're famous, you're this and this and this. And there's a darker side to it. Not one that you should be afraid of. It's easily manageable, but it's one that's there nonetheless. And I like to share that journey with people so they can see and they can stand up to bullies if they see them. For example, a meteorologist put on their Twitter page that they put the frost advisory in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and someone commented, "Go to hell" underneath it. It's like, you have options. First off, I'd reply to the person and be like, at least it'd be warmer there. But then you can go and you can just show like, hey guys, this isn't necessarily an appropriate response. And then your viewers will try to comment that too. So it's good to build a community who's aware of what's acceptable and what's not. Also, and this has been controversial for me, don't be afraid to use the block button. The thing with Twitter in particular is if you use mute, the people can still comment on your stuff, but you don't get to see it. So it's kind of a reverse block. It's a poor system. If you have someone who's causing trouble, block them for a week, for a month, for whatever you feel like. You can always go back and assess and see if they've matured. And you can go back and unblock them if you want. James is shaking his head, but it's true. Sometimes you can misjudge people. Sometimes, they are just rotten. So yeah, using block, and don't be afraid to call the police or the FBI. I have done both. They're there as a resource. And, nothing meets the face of a 60-something-year-old sheriff when you tell him you got a nude photo of someone and you have to send it to them in email for evidence. Their face when they get that email, priceless.
Oh, my word.
Wow.
I feel bad for them.
Wow. Sandy, you got something there?
So let and again, by the way, a lot of people are asking about the hurricane, and I promise we're going to talk a lot about the tropical storm Idalia, or however you'd like to pronounce it, when Mark Sudduth gets on here. Mark is down in the hurricane warning area. So again, he'll be joining us in less than 1 hour. So again, just hang tight, and we are going to get to the tropics. So on the social media stuff, I got it. Can I ask a few questions here? Is that okay?
Go for it.
This is Jen's interview. I don't want to barge in here.
No,
so
barge away.
So let's number one, let's discuss TikTok. Now, Jen, everybody on TikTok, they're doing one of three things. We discussed it on this show. I mean, Troy, we all know what the deal is. They're either dancing, they're funny, or they're cussing. So we want to know which one of the three do you specialize in?
Oh, see, I go with the strange category number 4, which is just chaos. I employ.
So you're probably dancing, cussing, and being funny at the same time.
Well, here's the thing. I can no longer run for president. You want to know why? It's because if you look up my name, bird poop and icicles is the first 20 articles on Google. So that's the first TikTok that really made me go viral. And it has never left me since. And I talked about how icicles can have bird poop in them. Birds poop on your roof. The water melts off your roof, freezes into the icicle. You're eating poop. That resonates with the public. So it's not necessarily cussing, but it's poop.
Well, that's a minor cuss, Kim.
Those things. You can outgrow the thing that comes up with your name. And the way I know this is, for a long time when you Googled my name, the first thing that came up was the meteorologist who killed Groundhog's Day, because I was at an AMS when I think it was gosh, there was someone who'd given a talk that was looking at like verifying like how good is this forecast actually, and it turned out that it was better to flip a coin. Like the rodent is systematically wrong so often. So that was fun, and I walked out of the convention center and met an AP reporter, and they interviewed me right there, and I was quoted with that, and that got repackaged into a number of languages, and it was insane.
Wow.
It was
See,
insane.
you know the model.
Right, but the thing is, I've learned that news articles actually do age out on the internet, and if you would even try to find that now, you probably couldn't. So,
well, that's a relief.
I want you to be president. That's the bottom line. I want you to be president.
Oh, you know, all the funding goes to National Weather Service at that point.
So we did a show on women that are sexually harassed in meteorology. It's nasty. I cannot understand it because I'm not a woman, but I've worked with many women over the years, and I've seen what they put up with. And while it's fun to laugh and joke and add some levity to this stuff, it can lead to mental health issues and depression.
Oh, yeah.
Because at the moment you're really up, you are riding high, but you can have some really low moments too if you deal with this stuff. How do you handle those low moments?
I find a group of broadcasters who understand. There's a fantastic support network that I've built, thankfully, through social media. That's one of the bright sides of it, is there's meteorologists who are men, meteorologists who are women, anyone who identifies as anything, you can reach out to them. But I have a group of core women that get so much harassment, and we just message each other. And if we need help, like, hey, listen, this guy did this. Is this something I should report? Like, that takes the presence of what do I need to do out of your mind, so you can focus on what just happened. Because it is layers of what you have to deal with when you get a message like that. And so having help to decide what you need to do is great. Having management at your station who takes it seriously, huge help. Because there's a no-go list of anyone. They have names, they have pictures, we can find you, who are not allowed on the property. And so that eases your mind. But yeah, even after all of that, you go to bed and you're like, I just got a pic of someone's genitals at 2 a.m. in a message where I open that form so people can message me if they have mental health concerns or if they just want to say hi. And that makes you very nervous going into your message request, like, oh, what am I going to find today? And it does also make you weary when you meet other guys. Like if I'm going out and I meet a guy, I'm like, okay, what are his motives? Is he only thinking about me for my body? Is he going to message me and ask me if I wear shoes on air? Like, or do I go barefoot? That one's been making the rounds lately. And so it does give a little bit of trust issues, but the way I see it is for every bad message I get 20 amazing messages from people from Star Trek, from weather, whatever. And I have to make the conscious choice to choose to look for the good. And if something bad happens, I know I have a net to support me.
Which platform brings the most harassment? TikTok, X, Facebook?
X.
So it's X.
Definitely X. I think I posted about it. I have it's probably not healthy, but I have a chart of all the sex bots I've blocked. I think we're up to 5,000 blocked accounts who just follow me for sex purposes. And it's like, dude, this
is insanity. This is total insanity. And people don't understand that this is going on, but it's very real. And it's something that you fight that we don't have to fight. And a lot of people just don't understand that.
Well, and there's almost a stigma around talking about it, because if you talk about it too much, people will be like, you're just a woman, you're just complaining. It happens to everyone. But if you talk about it too little, you're minimizing the amount of support you can get. And I found back during the pandemic, I wanted to put together a weather special about the sexual harassment of meteorologists, specifically female meteorologists. And I interviewed Mets from across the nation. And then I put a pause on it because I was already getting so much backlash, because if you post about your sexual harassment, keywords in that are going to bring out the creeps and the freaks in the comments, and you're going to get even more. So it's like a hydra. You just have to keep slicing off the heads, and you have to be psyched up to do that. You can't just do it on any normal day. So yeah, if you're going to take it on, be ready to take on a beast.
So, and again, Jen, I got one more and I'll stop. I hate to take over here, but I'm fascinated by your energy and your passion. And the question I think a lot of us have is, where's this going? Linear television's dead. Nobody's going to watch CBS tonight at 9 o'clock. Nobody knows it. They're going to go home and watch Netflix. They're going to watch Hulu. They're going to watch Amazon Prime. They're going to watch YouTube videos. They don't watch linear television unless there's a live sporting event or tornado coverage. And you can't live off tornado coverage because you don't have that many tornado days. Where is this going? Because I see so many young people, they have absolutely no interest in doing this. And I don't blame them. Years ago, I would have 100 applicants for one job opening here, 100. I could pick the best pick of the litter. Now, if I get 2 or 3, I'm lucky. It seems like this group coming out of college, they would rather go straight as an influencer where they can make more money on the social platforms than working for a television station, and it's more relevant to them. So the question is, if somebody wants to be a meteorologist that communicates weather to the masses, whatever you call that, I don't think it's going to be called broadcast meteorologist much longer. Where's this going? Where are we going to be in 10 years and 20 years?
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking about that because I still have a large portion of the career left. I'm thinking, okay, every week I see meteorologists who are jumping ship to the private sector or are leaving the broadcast industry in general. And I'm looking at it and thinking, okay, it is very clear. We have some key players who are influencers in the weather community who aren't properly trained. There's a guy in Iowa who I got to deal with in Sioux City who does fear-mongering forecasts and gets tens of thousands of likes.
What? Who is this guy?
Do I dare say the name?
No,
caps,
no,
very clear. You all know who he is. But it's like, it makes you want to almost become an influencer to combat that. So if you're thinking of graduating college and going into broadcasting in some sense, influencing is a decent course, especially if you have that degree, because you are going to stand out on a different tier. You're going to immediately have, well, first of all, trust. A lot of people are very trusting on the internet. Our parents told us not to be, but here we are. But if you have a degree, make sure you promote that. Say, I have the training. Here's what I'm talking about. And bring in other people. WeatherBrains is a fantastic example of this. You aren't pigeonholing yourself as the end-all, be-all god of everything. You have a crew. And having a crew means that you have people who can pick up the pieces if you miss something. And that enhances your coverage. And you can do this all by yourself. Anyone with a computer, a webcam, and a microphone can do this. Plus, you're pulling in your own revenue. You can have sponsors. You can have streaming money coming in. Some people make a lot of it. And you don't have to share that with a network. You don't have to share it with a station. So it is very enticing, but also be aware that it could flop. And it happens a lot when you flop. I have YouTube channels that have flopped. So it's really whether you choose stability in broadcast meteorology, or if you want to be an influencer and ride that roller coaster, either way, just aim to help people. And I think more people will start to create their own platform as they transition from broadcast. But starting out in broadcast isn't necessarily a bad thing just yet, because it at least teaches you the ropes. That was a long-winded answer. Sorry.
Well, no. There's no right or wrong answer. I mean, it's just like I feel like I'm handing the next generation a dumpster fire, which is what this has become.
That's what it feels like.
The people that are watching these news products are really, really old. They make me look like a kid, and they're dying. And before you know it, nobody's going to be left there. And, all these big companies, all of them, Nexstar, Sync, who do you work for?
I'm a Nexstar, previous Sinclair. So I've hit the big old two.
Yeah. I mean, it's at some point, these guys have to pivot. And I saw a private thing I can't really talk about today with Sinclair, where they understand it's over and they're trying to pivot. And, turning a big ship is hard to do. You can turn a little jet ski real quick, but a big old massive ship like this, because contracts are out there, they're still living on retransmission fees. It's going to take a while, but all this stuff is going away. But, will there be, I guess, and Kim, this is something for you too. I just wonder, how is weather going to be delivered? And I'm talking critical weather information, tornado warning, like what we got right now with Idalia. How is that going to be communicated? Are people going to be watching TikTok videos to get critical weather information in 15 or 20 years? or are they going to be watching? How is it going to play out? Katie, you're a hipster.
See, well, you brought up a really good point in that you have the older generation who's dying off who watch television. You're going to have a younger generation who grows up with social media. So you're just kind of shifting the bar further and further towards a social media dissemination platform. And I think television will still always be there. You could, like for me, I have channel 15 and that's just the NOAA weather radio playing. But you're going to have more and more people who look to any variety of social media networks, and that's going to become more of a major mode of communication.
And, here's the problem, though. It's like, when you work for one of these entities, you make a salary. Every 2 weeks what your paycheck will be, and you can plan your life around that. When you're an influencer, you have no idea what the next check is going to be, and you don't even know if that platform is going to be there next month. They might just pull the plug on it, or they might end the influencer creator content fund, or they might stop all monetization, pull the plug on it, and you just don't know. And I think that's part of the anxiety I see with some of the young people. Some of these kids that do really well, they're making $500,000 a year. They're 20 years old as an influencer. And then things change. And the next year they're making $11,000 and their lifestyle goes away. And people have been suicidal. I mean, literally, we've had loss of life because of this. And it's just, I worry about the stability of the whole thing. And I worry about, when there's a tornado flying, a violent EF4 tornado that's down that could kill, dozens of people. Who do you trust? How do you build trust in a TikTok world? Because again, and I've been joking about the cussing and the dancing and all that stuff, but I've seen, professional meteorologists wearing thongs, using F-bombs while they're dancing. And I'm not going to watch this clown. I have no interest in watching this guy. And I know all the cuss words. I work in a TV station. I could cuss up a storm. I think it's a sign of weakness. And I know that I'm not the right demographic for what this guy's trying to do, but I'm not so sure that builds credibility when you're dancing half naked, talking in a very inappropriate way about women. And this guy is a degreed meteorologist. So how do you maintain credibility and build a social media audience at the same time? And Jen, I'm sorry, this is my last question. I'll stop for a while. I hijacked the interview.
I think there's a great bridge that can happen because you can be an influencer and do crazy stuff like what you associate with influencer, but also try to sneak some weather in. I think if you genuinely want to build credibility, you have to be mostly weather. You can still be yourself, but find ways to make it more credible, make it more newsy. I hate that word, but make it a professional product rather than, hey guys, I'm sipping margaritas and there's a hurricane. Like, that's not professional in the broadcast world. I think the great bridge would be if the National Weather Service had a social media broadcast department. And this is something I have been a huge advocate for, because if you have the official National Weather Service of Grand Rapids, Michigan, on TikTok, some little check mark right there, and you have a broadcaster who knows what they're talking about, who can also be a personality. Like, I guess myself, you have energy, you can talk back and forth with people and riff off of them. All of that has to come together in a very specific personality. But if you have that and you put it in a professional social media setting, that's the golden ticket, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is actually something I was wanting to ask you in your view, because the National Weather Association meeting is coming up. There's a broadcaster workshop at it. I'm about to lead what we're casting to be like an integrated warning team sort of workshop for broadcasters and really anyone else who would like to come along, but like 200 broadcasters to iron out this relationship between the Weather Service and products that we issue and how it's communicated. And there's a lot of nuance to this stuff. And if we're looking down the way at a broadcast community that is going to be shifting entirely, I was going to ask you what you think the Weather Service should do, because I guess just in an ideal world, what you think would work best. I've never heard anyone say that they should become a broadcast organization, but that makes some sense to me. I want you to embellish on that. Why do you think that would be the ideal solution?
Yeah, I think the great thing about the National Weather Service is you have so much flexibility. If you have a group of broadcasters who go and work for the National Weather Service, say you only have a broadcast met who's on 9 to 5, and then if there's severe weather, they stick around longer. You can put one at every office. It's a cheap, easy solution. You pay them the same as a meteorologist. And if nothing's going on that you need to broadcast about, you put them on the desk and you have them forecasting. We have a degree in meteorology. We know what we're doing. So broadcasters are kind of a Swiss Army knife in that we can do weather and communications. And I've had a lot of people who have come up to me who are viewers who are like, National Weather Service says this, you say that, these people say this. And it does create this knotted mess that you have to sort through of forecast communication, and especially warning dissemination. You have people on social media who are making up their own warnings. California, Arizona, Nevada, you people know. But if you want the official forecast, you have to make sure you put a huge emphasis on communication, get it out to every platform. And broadcasters, we're kind of like the middlemen, and we do a great job of it. Got to toot my own horn there. But if you have the National Weather Service also helping that front by broadcasting themselves, you're going to get, you can do the online portion. You can have broadcasters do the on-air portion. You can cover much more of the field if you have even just one broadcaster on your staff. So I'd love to see that happen in the future.
And what's interesting is there are broadcasters who are jumping ship and joining the National Weather Service because they're doing things like Facebook Lives, and they are increasing their presence in multiple platforms. And there's been this moving line, right, about where the Weather Service can be in different dissemination methodologies. Oklahoma James just put in our chat, you know, should we have an app first? If we're going to be thinking about this, I think this is an interesting debate, and we're just living in like fantasy land here. But where should we place our emphasis if we're going to place our emphasis somewhere? I'll point out that for pretty much every weather hazard that's been studied, where we've looked at an event after the fact and seen where people get their information from, it's certainly true for hurricanes, definitely true for tornadoes, and even in many cases flooding. The number one source of information is broadcast television to get that information. So they're not getting it directly from the National Weather Service. It is mediated through many channels, but primarily broadcast. So if that whole system is going to be transitioning, does the Weather Service look to put itself into the other platforms and invest that way? Or would it be better to invest in being a replacement, sort of on the spot, on demand broadcast entity? And in which case they'd have to familiarize the public with the existence of the National Weather Service that they sort of know exists, but they definitely don't know its structure, right? So we have to contend too with this piece about how we've designed ourselves, and the geographies don't match the geography of any other lived experience, right? I think we would confront as part of that some really interesting challenges. Katie, you look like you're bursting at the seams.
I am, because you brought up the app, and I would love to see the National Weather Service have an app, work with Apple, work with Samsung, replace the terrible apps that they have on their phones, and make it the National Weather Service, at least in the United States. And what you could do, I already have the design. I get so bored, but I have designs all scrawled out for solving problems in the world. This one, you would have a forecast tab. You would have a NOAA weather radio tab. You don't have to have a physical NOAA weather radio. I would love to see you pop it up on your phone. There you go. And then you would have a live broadcast tab that you could activate if you had broadcasters working with the National Weather Service. So say you get an alert on your phone, there's a tornado warning, you go to the National Weather Service app, you can check out the NOAA weather radio. If they have a broadcaster, you can do that. Of course, you have your local TV apps too, which you can tune in and watch your broadcasters, but it just gives more options. And it also would be a great way to get the National Weather Service in front of all of these terrible apps that try to promote that they know what the weather's going to be. I think it'd be great to have.
James, you brought this up. Go with why did you bring this up as something that could be so important?
Well, I punched up over on my other screen. I was trying to find out what smartphone penetration is in the population of the United States, and it's, depending on the survey, between 81 and 88%. that's huge. If you have an alerting smartphone app from an official agency. And is this something that carriers should put on their phones as the part of the suite of apps that they just put on their phones and users don't download that? Is this like a WEA alert that is just in app form? And it's also worth discussing the weaknesses of cellular communications and Wi-Fi communication as well into that, but you can't ignore 81 to 88%, and they've got to be in this space. We were out hiking national parks, day hiking. I'm the great indoorsman. I don't do the spend the night outdoors thing, but the National Park Service has an app where you can pre-download things, like the whole park map, trail map, and everything. So we did not even need cell phone coverage as long as so there are government agencies that have incredibly helpful apps. FEMA has one that's fantastic, but it's a space that we need to be in. And I also think this Venn diagram also overlaps with a lot of big broadcast companies that still view, and meteorologists that still view National Weather Service people as competition. And we're not competition. We're in the same thing. We're trying to get to the greater good here.
We're all getting a
Lives and
paycheck
property.
and we're all trying to save lives. End of the day, that's it.
So I want to come back to Katie. You mentioned how great it would be if there was an app where you could just access the weather radio bands. And I've never thought about that either, but does that not exist? Can we not access those online or through an application? Like either one.
Yeah.
Either one.
I haven't looked lately. I'm not sure if someone's developed like a backdoor app, but there's nothing major, nothing official that's come out. And I think having that official stamp is what's going to get it to the top of the charts as something people will want.
One thing that the cases where I've seen it, Katie, and all is in some radio apps. And I'm trying to think about what I've got on the phone because I listen to a lot of streaming radio.
That's what I think about. Like there's scanners, right? Because like all these other public safety agencies, scanners are available online.
Yeah. Well, no scanners
Oh,
and tune in radio. Yeah. But it depends on someone having, usually these people that put it in are depending on someone else putting that weather radio frequency on a streaming channel. In other words, it's not usually the radio companies that do that. They go and take it, which makes it unreliable because the next day the guy moves and he pulls down his antenna and he no longer is broadcasting Austin weather radio. I don't think ours is being broadcast anymore. But I think it's a great discussion, and I love the way that Katie is sort of approaching it. But one thing that Katie, you're so young and so forth, but you've got to go back to the 1990s and an agreement essentially signed in the 1990s with the National Weather Service and some private sector companies basically said the Weather Service will not have an app. They will not compete with the private sector. Folks, the Weather Service does not compete with the private sector when it comes to warnings and advisories. They won't be around much longer, and watches. And so my philosophy, Katie, about this, and I've visited with Ken about it at headquarters, is that Weather Service right now, it's not going to make those people in some of the private sector companies happy. And James put it great. I don't know that it'd make TV stations real happy because they do this a little bit. But bottom line, the Weather Service can create an app tomorrow. As long as they got the time, they can create an app tomorrow that goes to exactly what Katie is saying. And what you do is you make it mission focused. What is the Weather Service mission? Protection of life and property from atmospheric hazards, basically. They can put out warnings. And I mean, think about those numbers that Okie James is telling us about, 80% plus. Even if some of them aren't working, at least there's a way for the public to get direct warning, advisory, and watch information from the damn people who issue it.
And they know it's real.
Yeah. And I just don't understand why the government doesn't get it. I can go anytime, Katie, and see when my tax return is due, my money is due from the IRS. They have a great app. You can do that. And I get email every morning pointing to me out what the Postal Service is going to bring me for the day. The Weather Service is the only federal agency that does not have it. It's time for that to end.
Well, and you bring up the competition side of things. It's not like it's going to be for profit. You aren't going to have ads for, I don't know, boots or something showing up in your forecast. Just have it exist. It's not
Katie,
competition if you aren't fighting for money.
It's going to be there, Katie, to serve the Weather Service mission. You don't put the forecast on there. Don't do that. Just put the warnings, watches, advisories. We've met the mission statement of the Weather Service through an app, and there's no reason that cannot be done. Well, technically, maybe not tomorrow, but it couldn't be done in short term, and it needs to be done. Weather Service needs to get off their can and get that done.
Well, and I think one of the things we've been hiding behind is budgeting too. That is a big problem with the National Weather Service. We're seeing cuts happening, and proposed cuts at least. But the nice thing about apps is teenagers in their basements can make them. Exactly. So if we want to, just get a group together who can add and do coding, who understand that stuff. And it doesn't have to be an immediate app drop that you drop in a month. You could drop it in a year and take the time and have a small team working on it. So it's a budgeted app that still works.
Yep. Well, I think also, and here we go, Troy's going to get us all in trouble here, but the bottom line too, and I'm going to, Kim, forgive me for what I'm fixing to say, but the Weather Service needs to look carefully at what they do every day and what their mission is, because I sometimes worry the Weather Service is getting off track a little bit to serve that mission. And I'll say that right now and will not apologize for saying it. Look at what you do best, issuing watches, warnings, and advisories for the public, stick in your mission statement. And sometimes you need to, if hadn't got enough budget money, it may mean you're doing too much. And by the way, you do too much means you don't do anything very well.
Man, I feel like I need to take you out for a drink, and we can
Katie.
just have the greatest of rants.
Yeah.
We'll meet up in Vermilion, South Dakota, and just have a night.
Let's go.
Anyone else is welcome to join.
Pub crawl.
Vermilion, that's my place.
There you go. I got kayaking, bars, and I think they have a McDonald's, so we're set.
But Katie, I'm sort of the Holiday Inn Express guy. I'm like James from Oklahoma. That's my biggest camping trip is a Holiday Inn Express.
You get the pancake printers. I don't blame you. That's the go-to place.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I mean, this is a fantastic conversation. It's really about where you're placing, at least your discretionary dollars does say a lot about what you value. And there are difficult things being decided right now. And every year, and that's, in my mind, part of the challenge here. And I am not speaking on behalf of, by the way, the National Weather Service. These are all Kim's views and Kim's views alone. I just had to put that disclaimer out there. But the fact that every year is a budget mystery makes this so hard. Every year, the federal government, the people who are working for the National Weather Service as feds don't even know if come October 1st, they're going to get paid. Every year. They don't know if that's going to happen. They don't know if they're going to be able to fill vacancies in their offices. And that breeds this, constant just drumbeat of panic. And
but one thing too, Kim, that I think is really important is in this last week, I get an email, not from the National Weather Service. I get an email from the International Association of Emergency Managers telling me the Weather Service budget, they're fixing to be defunded, basically. We're going to defund the Weather Service. We need your help now. My immediate response was to send an email to Weather Service headquarters. I haven't gotten a response to that yet. I asked what the deal is here. And no one can really tell me what that was all about. We didn't get the word from anyone except the International Association of Emergency Managers.
IAEM is one of the most loud voices in support of the National Weather Service for obvious reasons, because emergency managers really need to count on this information. The Weather Service can't advocate for itself.
That's true.
And that's part of the challenge too. So, Troy, if we all do want to meet up for drinks in Vermilion, South Dakota, I think we should.
No, we absolutely. Yeah. But one other thing too, I will say this, since I'm already in deep trouble and probably won't get a Christmas card from Weather Service headquarters this year.
Go ahead.
The Weather Service at headquarters has got to do a better job advocating for themselves in Washington. No offense, but you go to the FAA and you tell them we're going to cut your funding. They hold a press conference the next day and tell the senators to go to hell. And frankly, I think the Weather Service should stand up the same way and say, we have a mission to do, and we're going to stand up against this and go up against it. Weather Service, stand up for the men and women that work for the Weather Service and the job they do every day.
And you know what the big difference between the FAA and the National Weather Service would be is the public's association with them, because the public doesn't necessarily realize that the National Weather Service is what is issuing these watches and warnings. And there's a fantastic way to solve that. And we're already starting to see some offices doing that, and it's social media engagement. The best example of this, the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation. If you don't follow them already, they are insane, and I'm here for it. They're completely feral, and it is a fun time. But look at how many people are paying attention to animals and conservation now because they're following this account. I think they're up to 221,000 followers. A Department of Wildlife Conservation, a state department. And so if the National Weather Service starts reaching out and becoming more personable and explaining weather in fun ways and things, you got to build that army, because the army is the one who's paying the government and the government's the one who's paying you. So if they realize that, hey, this person that I like is going to have their budget cut, it's like a hornet's nest. I think that's one element that we could really build on.
Well, here's an issue. Are we saying that scientists working in public service have to themselves become influencers to get the support that's necessary to support the public service agency?
It's sad, but it's almost true at that point, because if we aren't going to get advocacy from elected officials who don't necessarily understand the science and don't understand the importance of it, you got to become advocates for yourself. And advocate and influencer are the same thing on social media. So you don't have to be like, hey, I'm going to take off my top for 90-degree temperatures. You can also just be like, hey, listen, I'm here. I work. Here's my day at the National Weather Service. And you'll get people who start to think, oh, you're a person, not a robot. And then they start wanting to follow you because you're a weather influencer. So simple.
Yeah. And that's another show
also,
title.
Don't take off your tops for temperatures. Yeah.
That's another show title. I'm going to take off my top for 90-degree temperatures. Wow.
I would have done that last week.
I'd be completely naked after this summer. So.
Last week.
And there's another show
Audio
title.
Only people are like, wait, I have to look up the video.
Don't
for
even
this.
go there.
Wow.
That even offends me.
Wow.
And real quick though, like a reporter came to me, I don't know, it was like last week, and wanted to interview me about the National Weather Service budget cuts. I didn't even know there were budget cuts.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And so that's just, are there? I mean, what's the story here? I told her I can't speak to this because I don't know anything about it. Kim, she's the top tier there.
Careful. Kim's got to be
I'm
careful.
not sure how much Kim can say, but I'm going to put a couple things out there. If you receive a budget that is flat or something close at the same time as mandates to increase things like salaries, things have to get put into pots and distributed creatively. And I mean, the bottom line is, if you're not funding an agency to keep up with salary increases, like it's basically a budget cut through, like just, that's what it is. The dollar now, what we're all feeling, doesn't have as much meaning as it.
You know, one thing though, Kim, is it seems like, I mean, just seems like to me that, you know, unlike, as Katie points out, the FAA, they come wanting a little money from the federal people want a little money. They come to NOAA, and NOAA is more than happy to give up Weather Service funding. I believe that. I think I've seen it before. They're, oh yeah, just take it out of the Weather Service. Everyone else will howl like a stuck pig, but I've seen Weather Service give it up too easily sometimes.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge.
Yep, I agree.
I mean, it'd be amazing if you got some answers from headquarters itself about all of those details. I think something that shouldn't be missed here is if we really want this to change, we can also look to Congress. If the people of this country start to see the trustworthy weather sources that they're getting erode because of these fundamental shifts in the way that weather information is getting disseminated, accessed, then it should be on those people to ensure that their populations are able to receive high quality weather information through the means that they get it. So if that shifts, then they have to be the ones who insist.
But
that the
listen to what
National
Katie,
Weather Service
listen to what
does this.
Katie is saying though, Kim. People at home, I don't think know that the Weather Service is one of the few agencies in the federal government, period, that's responsible for protection from the public or property from atmospheric hazards 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. I don't think people understand that. I don't think if they did, I think we'd have double the funding. But I think the public at home does not get it.
We do have a double-edged sword that's working in our favor, and that's going to be severe weather outbreaks or hurricanes, because that's when we really get weather just thrust into the spotlight. And just like with hurricane season ramping up now, you're going to be seeing more and more politicians who are like, state of emergencies or funding for this, funding for that. And that's really when we have to hook them and grab them and be like, hey, don't just treat the wound, stop the wound from happening.
But Katie,
help in
Katie,
advance.
I mean, are we willing to give up in Alabama in 2011? Are we willing to give up 450 lives for that to happen, or a hurricane to slam into the west coast of Florida? We shouldn't. And shame on the politicians. Shame on the politicians of this country that hadn't stood up and made the National Weather Service given the funding they need for doing what they do, and they need to look carefully at what they do and what's important. But I agree with you.
But top to bottom, they're
meteorologists
a very efficient agency. I mean, they don't waste a lot of money, because I don't think they have a lot of money to waste.
No,
exactly. Well, and we're scientists. We're good with numbers. Accounting kind of goes along with it, I'd hope. We've gone through calculus, that counts for math, right? But if we aren't causing a problem, then we'll be overlooked, which is a horrible way for things to be handled. Yep. But if it truly does come down to it, we see meteorologists all the time yelling on social media sometimes, look at these radar holes. If we just had one in Mason City, Iowa, we could save lives. And crickets until an F5 blows through. And then it'll maybe get a week's notice and then it's gone. So we really do need to call out more towards the public, the people who are outside of meteorology, who are enthusiasts, who vaguely enjoy the weather. No matter your range in the weather, advocate for it if you have the time. It takes like 5 minutes to write up an email. And if we flood them, we'll be obnoxious. And then, hey, we're on their radar.
But it's also, you've got this window of opportunity after something is top of mind. And until it's top of mind, it's harder to galvanize public opinion and administrative action to fund something like this. I mean, it's the old, the railroad track doesn't get the crossing signal until a bad accident's there.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know an emergency management agency that doesn't have a list of things ready to go in that window of opportunity. Oh, guess what? I have this proposal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and like broadcast meteorologists are kind of in a very interesting position where we do have an audience who's not tuned into the weather, unless something big happens at times. And after an event and they're hollering, hey, it moved 20 miles this way and destroyed my farm, or it moves 20 miles that way and completely missed me. I didn't even see rain. Is it our place to say, if you want better weather forecasting, we need you to support these agencies? Because that does almost seem like an agenda, which could be bad, in broadcasting and stuff, but also it's very true because we need support from the National Weather Service to fuel our jobs. And so that's what I've been really working with. It's like, how do I get that message out there without being preachy? And then while also not sounding like I have an agenda, because I mean, in a way it is, but in a way it's an agenda that everyone can get behind. I don't know a single person who says, I want to die in a tornado, who's actually sane. All the sane people don't want that to happen. So we should be unified.
I don't know why we can't promote our partnership with the National Weather Service. It's, I think it's our wording. It's our partnership. We have to have them. And they are servant-hearted. I say it every time I can. They have the biggest servant hearts, and they are doing stuff for limited money, awful hours. and they're seeing things. I just talked to Rick this week about the 10-year anniversary of the Moore tornado and just the different things that when they go out on the surveys and what they see, it's just awful. And they have the biggest hearts, though, to love these communities and help them through and bring awareness and bring change. And so I don't have one iota of a problem with us promoting our partnership, and that they need us. I think that would be needed.
Well, and it's a non-monetary partnership. A lot of times if you see partnerships in corporate America these days, you assume it's for money and for gain. This is not for gain. This is just to save lives. And that should be the bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. Whew, I'm trying to figure out where to go next.
Well, can I, let me ask James Spann.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask James one real quick here. Because I wondered about this. If the Weather Service were to create an app for the mission statement for watches, warnings, and advisories only that could be addressed to, to individual locations and so forth via GPS, do you think TV stations would fight that, James, at all?
I don't think so. No,
Okay.
I really don't think so.
I'm wondering if James, yeah.
If they limit it to that,
yeah,
I don't think so. But now, if it was one of these, full blown apps like all these TV stations have, I could understand maybe some kickback or pushback then. But I think if it's just watches and warnings, that's like a weather radio. I mean, is a TV station going to push back on a weather radio? No, we promote weather radio. And
yeah. So James, James,
Great
yeah,
point.
go.
Because my station app also will push alert watches and warnings. So you don't need anybody else's app. I totally disagree with that, because have multiple sources, right? We keep saying that, and that's what I'm going to hear from marketing all the way up to corporate. If they get that down, if they download that app, they might not download our app.
But what if that person moves from Tulsa to Little Rock and depends on it with the same thing with the TV station there, and let's say none, I'm sure that some of them do in some form, but they have no one there that can deliver it. I mean, does that mean, okay, then...
But Troy, our weather app is so good, it's reading the GPS on your phone. It knows wherever you are in the country to send you alerts only near you. And if you're driving into one, they're just protective of their stuff. And I get it.
Yeah, and I do too.
The way I
mean,
enter that conversation.
Yeah. Same way
sorry,
private sector is. I mean, I've always thought that AccuWeather has a pretty good app as well, and they have one where you can travel as well and get that information. But as Katie, I think, so well pointed out, this is not a monetary issue. This is a save your life issue. And the more stuff that's out there, the better. And especially if you can get it directly from the source.
But know that, we all know that, but the people signing our paycheck might have a different perspective.
The only thing that I can find a way to, like, when you like nudge the person, like, hey, I bet you can't do this just because you want to see them do it. Be like, well, hey, if our app is so great, we have nothing to worry about. Let the competition come in. Come on, we can do this, dude, bro. Like that sort of vibe. Just be like, hey, listen, if our app is so great, then we shouldn't be worried. If you're worried, then maybe we need to improve our app, because either way, an improvement's going to be made. Just might not be the one we want.
We need Mr. Beast to endorse our app.
You get Mr. Beast in the National Weather Service. Can you imagine the explosion? I think my head would explode at that point.
Troy, do you follow Mr. Beast on the YouTube?
I wouldn't know who Mr. Beast is if he walked in this room right now.
That was your college nickname, Troy. Come on.
Yeah, well, no, I won't tell you what my college nickname was.
We obviously love chaos here at WeatherBrains, and so I'm going to bring in another controversial topic. We had Tabitha Bartow on a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you're familiar with Tabitha. She was hired at a TV station in Knoxville, and then she was let go, and we had her on to talk about her curly hair. And just a little side note, I know we're gonna talk about your hair here in just a second. A little side note, I just met her with lunch on last week, because we live in the same area. And she is just as charming in person as she was on the show. Super sweet girl. She's going back and she's working on her master's, and I really enjoyed spending time with her. So anyway, talk about, does your station have a problem with your curls? And is there a line for station management to say, do something with your curls, make it straight, do with this with your makeup? What do you do? How do you handle all that?
That's a great question. It's funny. I straightened my hair for 2.5 years to the point that it actually wouldn't grow anymore. And that's when my management, my amazing news director, Diana, she came to me and she goes, I know you have curly hair. I've seen it. It's gorgeous. Let it fly. And she really was the one who pushed me to wear curly hair. And I was like, okay, yeah, push comes to shove, I'm going to be bald if I don't. No offense to James Spann, but bald doesn't look good on me. But
what do you mean? Bald is beautiful.
Yeah.
You never know until you
Katie.
try.
Watch it, Katie.
I got it. I was like, all right, I'm going to try my best. And so I did. And the viewers were amazing. Half of them thought I got a perm. I was like, no, I'm Scottish and Greek. You can imagine my temperament, but that also explains the hair. So I just immediately, when I auditioned for WLNS, I sent in my resume reel. I had curls and I had straight hair. They didn't say either way. And so I just went with the curls, and the viewers loved it. They were very responsive to it. And now we're seeing more and more of the Crown Act being put into place where, hey, your biology is your biology. You can protect your hair if it's curly, if it's straight, however you can wear it to tame it. Now, if it's crazy, looks like you just rolled out of bed, frizzy mess, like this will be in a few hours, that might not be the best for your product overall. And then you can be like, hey, listen, how can we help maybe tame this a little bit? Offer to help. For me, I created a bin at our station that's a free sample bin. Anyone who shops at Ulta knows they give you like 20 free samples if you buy $80 worth of product or something. I don't use all that product because my hair isn't for that type. So I put it in a bin, I put it in our makeup room, and anyone who needs it can have it. And so that's a great way to help. But the stations themselves, unless it looks like you did not even try, I'd say, hey, if they're making an effort, the hair looks good, it's professional, it's what they choose to wear, to an extent, let them. If the viewers start to comment on it, maybe talk about it, have a discussion, but don't immediately switch gears. Like for me, I wore my hair in a ponytail one day and the viewers were fine with it, whether it was down or in a ponytail, which, I thought for sure, taboo ponytail, that doesn't look professional. Don't care. They just want to know what the forecast is. And that's helped with the transition to curls.
Yeah,
I got lucky with my station, though. A lot of stations I've heard of, not the same.
Well, and it's awful too. Like I know for her, and she was so great to come on the show, and she was so honest, and she's handling it very well. But she struggled too, and she's young. Or you come out of college and you go. And my first question to her was, "So was your hair curly on the audition tape?" And she said, "Well, yeah." And I'm like, "And they already knew what you're going to get." Yeah. And so I think she just got a really raw deal and had a really awful person who. Was just not nice anyway.
Well, and that's why it's so important to have the Crown Act in place, because that counts. Like it's mainly thought of for African-American hair and stuff, but it can protect people who are also of Mediterranean descent, who have curlier hair like myself, who have stick straight hair if people want them to have curls and they just can't support that. It's a win for everyone. Yeah. If I wanted to shave my hair off and do a James Spann lookalike, I would do it for Halloween. And then we could make it work.
Hair is a waste of time. I mean, come on. I mean, it's like some people spend like 3 hours a day on their hair. They spend thousands of dollars a year on their hair. I don't even know how to operate it. I don't even know how to operate a comb. I mean, it's like I ain't got time for that. I ain't got time for that. I am busy, so I am, and I would shave my head. And I can't shave my head because I got potholes. It's lopsided. So I leave a little fuzz around the side of it.
We're
I thought you wanted to do a
Jean-Luc
Jean-Luc Picard cosplay, and that's why you kept it.
Yeah.
See, I don't know. Every now and then somebody asks me if that's my real hair. And I've said, are you kidding? Would I buy hair that look like this?
That's a good looking toupee right there. Very good looking toupee. We call them toupees where I'm from.
Oh my goodness. So I need some advice because I don't know if you know who Tornado Talk is, but we do tornado history. And it's for some, that's awesome. And they love learning. And for some, if they think it's completely boring, I will sit in a library all day and have no problem. How can I get younger folks? Now I have a lot of young kids that work with me, but more young kids interested in tornado history or just history period, how can I be engaging? So what's your advice on engaging when you're an old fart like me? How do you engage the younger folks?
Trust me.
No, Troy and I have underwear older than you.
Old fart, James and Troy. So
okay.
Yeah.
I'm a baby fart then.
Show title.
Yeah.
So how do I engage young people to get interested in, because I love the history part. I love it. Obviously I'm a meteorologist, so I'm interested in the tornadoes, but it's the history, it's the storytell, it's the people story.
Absolutely. Oh, well, first off, colorful maps. Heck yes. Find those tornado track maps where you can go back through history and see, hey, have you lived through a tornado? Anyone can click on it. And that drives them to get more engaged. And then if they find out there was a tornado that hit my house in 1943, they might want to go and learn more. Another one is to just find the weirdest stuff you can. So I have so many different notes. I've been working on, there it is, a bunch of TikTok ideas. And this new one is tornadoes are actually real. Because there was a tornado in Elgin, Texas, I want to say. I could be wrong. I just started this page. But it picked up a bunch of cows, threw them into another field. They all survived. One just had a messed up leg. And then there you go. You have tornado history. You got a weird fun fact. And it's got cows. Who doesn't love cows?
And you had ground beef.
Multiple draws in. Yes, exactly. Yeah, they were all knocked unconscious. They woke up. They were in a different field. Yeah, just finding that weird tether of hey, maybe this tornado did something strange, or maybe this was super unique. It threw a freight train completely across town. Then you get train enthusiasts also tied with the tornado enthusiasts.
And this, by the way, because she won't say it herself, but this is what Jen and all the munchkins that work with Jen do so very well. I mean, tornado talk. Folks, go look it up, and I'm telling you, they do an amazing job.
Oh yeah. Well, because if you give them a morsel of something that they're interested in, they will go and thrive in the environment of finding information. That's why with TikTok and stuff, I just give them just little nuclei to form a thought. And then it creates this whole cascading effect where they spend time out of their lives willingly to learn something rather than me forcing it down their throat.
Yeah, that's really great. Now, I'm not sure if I want to take it to TikTok, but I like what your ideas are. I don't know if there's other places I can throw that out there. And I might talk to my munchkins. That's a good name. And
if you ever need help, I'm here.
I will, Katie, because your enthusiasm and your personality is just, it's great. And it's
I'm glad it's not obnoxious. I've gotten both of those before, so we'll go with great.
Not to be.
I figured out, Jen, who she is. She's the female version of John Gordon.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
She is.
I'll take that.
She is. Oh my gosh. Have you ever met John Gordon? Boy, the two of you in a room you could power like a house.
Dude, that barn Vermilion is going to be on fire if we were both there.
Wow. I do have one more question for you, Katie, and then we're going to break to our audio segments. Then we're going to talk the tropics after, but please hang out with us during that time. But I do have one more question. While I was perusing and looking at your social media, I did see that you were in a really horrific car accident earlier this year. And so I saw the car. And so please tell us how you're doing. And it was horrific to see. It took my breath away. So I'm glad you're here. Yeah. You're such a powerhouse I'm just so glad you're part of the weather community and Weather Enterprise. So tell us a little bit more about what happened and how you're feeling.
Yeah, so it's interesting how everything ties back to weather in my life, because I was actually in Los Angeles for the world premiere of Star Trek Picard season 3. And I got into the Star Trek Picard community through podcasting, which started because I did a forecast for Star Trek. I do these fandom forecasts, which are fictional forecasts. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I was out in LA, amazing time at the premiere. I saw Patrick Stewart. And then I got in the car to go back to the hotel, and I was on South La Cienega Boulevard, headed straight towards LAX where my hotel was, which, that's 3 lanes, middle lane, I think. And it was like 11 o'clock at night. No one else was on the street. I'm driving, and all of a sudden I just concussive force. I've thrown forward. someone rammed into me at what I can only estimate is at least 30 over the speed limit. That's my estimate. And it actually crushed the back of my car. The trunk became the rear axle, and it bent the axle, and it turned my wheel. So I had no steering control, and it forced me into 4 lanes of oncoming traffic going horizontal. And there was a semi, which thankfully was going a little bit slower than the other car. That other car hit me, and it caused my car to roll. And I stopped just before I would have crashed into a cement building. And those kind of things where you're sitting and you blink and you're now upside down is kind of a very strange sensation. And couldn't move my arm at all. It was useless. And it was in a residential area. So I had a bunch of people who came and pulled me out of the car because I couldn't get out. And was taken to UCLA Trauma 1, which in LA, if you're Trauma 1, that really says something. And we for sure thought, like, my shoulder was shattered, something was wrong. It was actually posterior dislocation, which basically my arm was being ripped out of my body. And so they got that popped back in after hours of excruciating pain. And now I have a permanent pop can dent, kind of like if you hit a pop can with a BB gun, that's what my bone is. And so I can forecast low pressure systems a whole lot better now because I'm in pain when they arrive. But I'm going to probably develop arthritis in this. I can't rock climb. I can't do what I normally want to do, but I can point on the green screen. And that's what my physical therapist told me to do. We did all these exercises specific to pointing for temperatures from St. John's to Hillsdale. And I had pulmonary contusions. So I had bruising on my lungs. I had bruising everywhere, really. And I actually lost my voice. I thought I had maybe wrecked my broadcasting career, actually, because I was screaming so much in the hospital in pain that I couldn't talk for weeks afterwards. And so it's come back a little bit better. It's huskier than what it used to be, but maybe that's just in my brain. But now I'm able to high five people like normal. And I'm in pain every once in a while, but hey, it's better than being dead. So I'll take that.
Thank you.
All right. I see Mark is with us. Let's see.
Hey.
Mark, can you hear us all right?
I can. Sorry, it's
all right.
dark.
That's okay. I mean, it is what it is. So tell us where you at.
Cedar Key in Florida. Oh my goodness, look at that light. That was insane.
Woo.
There's a thunderstorm to our north that is putting out lightning bolts that are just incredible. Wow. Anyway.
Well, so thank you for joining us. We'll just get right into this. So we're going to talk about first off, we need to figure out how are we pronouncing this storm. Mark, you're the hurricane expert here.
Yeah, it's a Portuguese pronunciation. It's Idalia.
There you go. So Jen, that's what I actually got one right for a change. Idalia. So just your thoughts, Mark, based on the data you've seen today and what's the impact, what's to come, what do people need to do? What are your thoughts? This ain't your first rodeo.
Especially out here. Been out here for all the way back to 2003 with Henri, that was a tropical storm, Hermine in 2016, Michael 2018, Nestor 2019, Ada 2020, 2021, Elsa. And then this year with Idalia, I think this has got Cedar Key's number, and everybody else here feels that this could be potentially the Mexico Beach of the Nature Coast. And I certainly don't use that lightly. It could be very, very bad for Cedar Key, Horseshoe Beach, Yankeetown, Steinhatchee. The surge is going to be immense.
And a lot of people listening to this, Mark, or watching, they perhaps don't quite understand. They just assume that Florida is wall-to-wall high rises and resort cities. This is a fairly sparsely populated part of Florida, right?
Right. It is generally. But you do have these areas like Cedar Key that are near and dear to people's heart. They come out here, like Mexico Beach. People come down from Kentucky, Alabama, etc. Mexico Beach is, the forgotten coast, they call it, part of that. this area of Cedar Key, my parents were here in the 60s, 70s. I think I know I came here as a kid in the 80s. But it's a beautiful area. There's manatees, dolphins, good fishing, good eating. You know, it's got a special place for people all over the Southeast. And so do these other areas. They're kind of hideaways, but nevertheless, they may not be Tampa or St. Pete, but they're still important to Floridians and other people in the Southeast U.S.
What are your thoughts on the intensity at the time of landfall, Mark?
Well, the hurricane models are pretty aggressive, and that's concerning. I didn't see the 18Z, but yeah, we'll look at. I think the key is, let me get to where there's some light now that we're back in some semblance of something like civilization.
And we've seen some wicked lightning strokes on your camera. It's like awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, here, let me get. Let's see if we do this, you should be able to see those little. Wow. Anyway, better lighting here. The key is when Idalia creates.
I think the hurricane doesn't want us to know key.
When Mark said the key is, that's when he went away. Yeah, Mark, you got some bandwidth issues. We're starting to lose you, unfortunately. We heard you say the key is.
Let me get closer to. I'm doing an interview. I'll be right. We're almost done. Let's get closer to the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
All right, we back?
Yes, sir. You're back. You're good.
I walked away from my hotspot. The key is when it develops a core, and once that happens, the rapid intensification could commence. The waters are certainly warm enough. It's just a matter of how it interacts with the atmosphere around it, the trough that's coming in to turn it north. You know, it's all intricate. But if it comes together like we saw with Michael, that was October 10th. This is peak of hurricane season. Very, very concerned about it. I mean, in fact, I told the fire chief that any storm chasers that are coming down here, stringers, et cetera, from some of the big outlets, news media, I don't care who you are, this could kill you. Like, this could be really, really bad. And the fire chief told me that nobody is going to help anybody because they're going to be under such duress and so many problems that you're on your own. So any chasers that come down here, I hope they leave before Highway 24, which is the only way out here. It's about 20 miles from Highway 1998. That could go into water. Then you're stuck. You could be stuck down here for several days, and it's scary. This is the nature coast. They have everything except velociraptors.
What are your thoughts on Tampa Bay?
Ooh, look at that lightning. So Tampa Bay is going to get a southerly wind. Southwesterly, southerly, you know, the general component from the south, of course, onshore flow, and it's going to pile up the water efficiently. I guess the big concern that we're all wondering is, does Idalia do that turn Wednesday that Ian did, that Charlie did, and it goes between Cedar Key and, let's say, Tarpon Springs, and then Tampa Bay is in the strong onshore flow. You don't even have to have Tampa Bay in the core to drive more than 10 feet of water in there. That could be a really big problem. So it's still up in the air about what could happen in Tampa Bay. But even as the forecast is several feet of water, this might be more than anybody has seen since 1921.
I know you're busy, Mark. We'll let you go in a second, but what are your plans? How can people follow you? Kind of give us what your schedule for the next 36, 48 hours.
So our plan, set up equipment. We've done pretty good here in Cedar Key with several assets deployed, a weather station on the bridge up here to get wind data and pressure data, really high-end stuff too, RM Young anemometers, our remote cameras. We're going to work with some people that own this tiki bar to put a GoPro inside their tiki bar area. I really want to document this using remote technology. We have several other assets we have to place out tonight through tomorrow. We still have through tomorrow, so that's good. We're ahead of schedule. And then the key is to get some sleep so we can have our wits about us. That's very important. On Twitter, I will never call it anything but Twitter, and at Hurricane Track, YouTube at Hurricane Track, and of course, so proud that we're crowdfunded through Patreon, and we work with Fox Weather in New York City. Great new outfit. This has been nice to work with them, put me on the air a lot, telling our story. And I really appreciate being able to do that. That sort of sets up what we're doing, the story behind these cameras. So I've got a lot of work ahead of me. I got a good team behind me. I might be the face of it. But James, I've got a great group of people like you do. It's WeatherBrains and it's a team, right?
There you go. There you
Hey,
go.
Mark.
Hopefully that all came through.
Yeah. Troy Kimmel here. Real quick question for you, Mark. Without Cedar Key, I'm sitting here looking at some maps. I mean, I'm worried about what I'm seeing there. You plan on staying on the island? And my question for you, since you a little background there, what is the population of the people that live in Cedar Key, and what's maximum elevation of some of those areas around Cedar Key? I mean, on that island.
So first, well, I'm going to turn our stream off to see if this helps our stream.
Okay.
It's like having 10 people take a shower at the house. Too much bandwidth being used.
Well,
there's only so much bandwidth out here. There's a lot of media, a lot of people streaming. We got streaming cameras. So no, we're not staying. Absolutely not. That's why we're setting up the remote cams. I will be with my colleague Matt in Lake City, inland. That's I-10 and 75 roughly on Wednesday. But Idalia is going to come right over that area, and it's going to still pack a punch. Make no mistake, but we're going to be far from the water, and we'll be safe at the hotel. It's going to be daytime, it looks like, so that's going to be interesting. As far as the population down here, just a few hundred to maybe 1,000 or so, if I had to guess. But then during weekends and popular times, it can be several thousand. And a lot of these people have lived here a long time. They're dug in, they're stubborn. They think they know hurricanes, but I hope they realize that each one of them is different. As the fire chief told me, there's only so much you can do. A mandatory evacuation does not mean they can drag people out, not in Florida.
Well, we put water, we put salt. Well, I mean, we're in the middle of salt water, but will we put water? I mean, what's the max elevation in Cedar Key, Mark? I mean, of those islands?
Yeah, there's some areas that are 20 plus feet.
Okay.
Trying to get a better signal. The fire chief lives on a hill, if you will. They're like bluffs. So Cedar Key is not completely flat. There's just rolling kind of bluffs through there, but a lot of it is very low next to marshes, mangrove, that kind of thing. And, people that are low lying that get flooding from like the superstorm of 93 or Hermine, this is going to be many feet higher than that. And I hope they realize that. And maybe it'll be wrong. Maybe everything will turn out great, but hope by itself is a very poor planning tool.
Yeah, well, Mark, we know that you got to go here in a second. Again, thanks a lot for joining us tonight. Any words from you for people that live in that area? A lot of people are watching us that are living in Tampa and they're nervous and that they don't quite know what to do or how to react. Any words for the residents there?
Yeah, a couple of words. I understand how you feel. I've done this long enough to realize it is stressful. It's not an exciting thing like you're going to Disney World. Exciting. It's exciting in terms of stress, like, any other stressful thing in life. So I hear you. I do. And then the other thing is listen to your gut. If your gut says, if you got a bad feeling, I shouldn't stay, follow that. Get inland. You don't have to drive to Atlanta. Just get out of the way of the water. Try to hunker down somewhere. Lots of hotels, hopefully, in the Orlando area. And just be patient. These things are awful when they're over. You survive the front end. It's the aftermath. Mexico Beach, Southwest Florida after Ian. People know it's that aftermath. And it's hard. It really is. I get it. And just try to hang in there. And that's easy for me to say, but it's a tough situation. It's very stressful, and we'll hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. I know it's cliche, but you have to do that. Your gut says,
okay,
I'm
Mark,
scared about this, and you're near water, evacuate.
Well, Mark, again, it's amazing watching the lightning behind you. Your camera shot's incredible there. So thanks a lot for joining us, and you stay safe, and we'll be following you on all the social platforms. And thanks for all your work, and we can't wait to see the data that you gather for this. So thanks a lot for joining us, Mark.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. when it's over, I'd love to come on and we can tell the story with better bandwidth.
Indeed. Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Mark. Appreciate you joining
Thanks.
us. Okay, have a good night. We're going to take a quick break here. We're going to pause for Tony Rice and his astronomy report. Then we'll have Jen's This Week in Tornado History. We're going to do some email. We'll do weather roundup, picks of the week, and much more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your astronomy outlook.
Where will you be for the total eclipse on April 8th, 2024? Now, whether you plan to be in the path of totality, and I totally recommend it, or be watching with eclipse glasses from your backyard, now's a good time to make sure you'll actually be able to see the eclipse. And I'm not talking about clouds. That's always going to be a factor, which we, of course, can't predict this far in advance. But you can tell if there's going to be a tree or a building blocking your view over the next couple of weeks. First, go to tinyurl.com/2024 eclipse map, and then click on your location. The pop-up will give you the times of the beginning and end of the partial eclipse, along with that point of greatest eclipse right there in the middle. Now, keep in mind that all these times are in UTC, so be sure to change to your time zone. Next, go outside during the end of August and into the first week of September at that time of greatest eclipse. And be sure to bring along those eclipse glasses that you've saved since 2017 and test them out. If there's a tree in the way this week or next, it will also block your view of the eclipse in April. Now, you can repeat this for the start and end times as well to make sure that you can see the entire eclipse. And this is all accurate within a couple of degrees. The absolute best time to check this out will be September 1st, when the sun will be within less than a degree of where it will be on April 8th. Now, this trick will also work for the upcoming annular eclipse on October 14th. This time, get your timings from tinyurl.com/2023 eclipse map. And begin looking on October 1st. The sun's path through the sky will be within about 5 degrees of its path on October 14th. And about those eclipse glasses, be sure to check them out before using them, especially if they've been stuck in a junk drawer for 6 years. If you find them creased or torn, replace them. Your eyesight is too precious to gamble with, and I wouldn't wait either. We're less than 50 days away from that annular eclipse, so we could see a rush on glasses in the coming weeks. And a question I get a lot from those who remember the market being flooded with dangerous counterfeit eclipse glasses is, where are some safe sources? Well, the American Astronomical Society has you covered there. Visit eclipse.aas.org and click on Eye Safety for lots of great information about testing your glasses and also sources for new ones. That's your astronomy outlook. Follow me at RTP Hokie for more spacey stuff like this.
This week in tornado history, a tropical depression formed on August 26, 1978. It formed between the merging of an upper tropospheric low and a tropical wave near the Yucatan Peninsula. This depression was upgraded to Tropical Storm Deborah on August 28th and made a landfall in southwestern Louisiana on the 29th. It was a disorganized system, but numerous tornadoes developed across the Deep South, including a quick-hitting F2 in South Memphis, Tennessee. Per the storm data narrative, the path was only 2 miles long. Most of the damage, though, was confined to a half-mile stretch lined with fast food restaurants. A Wendy's and a Pizza Hut were destroyed, and a steakhouse was damaged near the corner of Chambliss and Elvis Presley Boulevard. 80 automobiles and parking lots of various businesses were damaged. There were no fatalities and 26 reported injuries. We have a summary on this event and hundreds more at tornadotalk.com.
All right. Just maybe there's a little email to read this week.
All righty. So this one came in mid-August from Ashley Ross. I live in Central California. And over the last winter, we had record amounts of precipitation. We had so much precipitation that our dried up, is it Tulare Lake? Am I saying that right? Has reappeared, leaving farmland and some small towns underwater. Currently, we're witnessing one of the coolest summers in a long time, with temperatures actually dipping into the 90s during June, July, and August. High pressure seems to be a dominant, as is usually during this, is not as dominant. She was just curious if there's any research out there that links high pressure or just, you know, the amount of monsoonal moisture coming in and all that kind of stuff. I guess just what would explain what they're seeing in her area. Is there any kind of research out there on that? I don't know of any.
Who's the most westernmost panelist here? That's got to be James A, I guess. Or Troy.
Troy or me, but I know Tulare was a huge inland lake in California until fairly recently, decades ago, and it was gradually drained. But big water seeps into it from San Joaquin River out there. So I don't know if that's just because of snowmelt. Yeah, snowpack in the Sierra. I presume that's it. That's a Neil. Neil would know the answer to this.
Yeah, but he's out. He doesn't have Wi-Fi right now, so who knows? He's out gallivanting.
He's out surfing.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll get him to answer that one next week.
That's right. I'll hold on to that one for Ashley, and then we'll get a couple here from Steve Holmes, who asked about this couple of Hawaii questions. Was weather radio used for civil emergency messages before the wildfires? Do we know?
That's a great question. I'd love to know the answer.
Yeah, I don't know. And then he wanted to know how the National Weather Service folks were doing.
The one thing I would tell you probably, Jen, is, and I don't know that. I think it's a great question about whether they're used for civil emergency messages. But remember, civil emergency messages are relayed by the National Weather Service. They're not issued, they're relayed by the Weather Service. So it would depend on local emergency management. And we get back to that, the track record probably wasn't very good based on what I've seen so far.
Okay. I'm going to hold on to that one too. That I'll just put in my little, little area there. And I also have another one from James Lewis, but I want to hold on to that one too, so we can get the other part of the crew here, because it's a question that would be for everybody. But we see your emails. We try to get to you either on the show or we write to you and answer your question. We appreciate all of your guest suggestions and everything that you send to all of us, comments on the show and what have you. So I appreciate it. Email at weatherbrains.com. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter too. Go to the homepage. You'll see our cute faces there and click on that. And you can sign up for our newsletter and get that Thursday mornings in your email inbox. Some lot of fun stuff coming from your brainy friends here. Back to you, James.
When the weather ball is red, warmer weather is ahead. When the weather ball is white, colder weather is in sight. When the weather ball is green, no change in the weather is foreseen. When colors blink, by night or day, precipitation's on the way.
So we are doing this show on the 28th of August, 2023. And obviously the big story, we've talked about it extensively here with Mark, is Idalia, which is the way I've been saying it. And I wanted to bring in Kim. Kim, just from what you can see so far, what are your thoughts on the messaging with this tropical cyclone so far in terms of reaching people and people taking action? What are your thoughts?
I have to admit, I don't know. And part of the reason that I'm not sure is I just need more insight into what the people on the ground are getting. That can be really tough to suss out from a distance. So I'll be really, really interested in any post-event work that could be done with this. I think we need to do more of that for that reason. It can be difficult to know when you're outside of that context. Anytime, though, that there is a rapidly intensifying system that doesn't take very long to traverse, some distance before it makes landfall, I worry. I'm not sure that this is something that people had on their radars for the past several days, going into last weekend. And the weekend would have been a good time to be getting stuff ready and get stuff boarded up. And now that we're into the work week, I mean, it really comes down to were they paying attention over the weekend, or were they off doing other things? There's some elements of this that the timing gives me reason to worry, but I really am not sure. So my hope is that people are heeding the alarm now, and that they've been through enough rapid intensification events at this point that they kind of understand that this seems to be a pretty normal thing for us now. And especially when the water temperatures are as warm as they are. And that is something coastal residents have to be acutely aware of. Like, they have to know that their environment is absolutely primed. And so some of it comes down to what people understand about the connection between those things. Some of it comes down to, were they paying attention while this rapid intensification was taking place?
You know, Kim, I wonder, just kind of watching a couple of monitors up here in Fox Weather and other things, it just seemed like coming out of the weekend, there was a little more urgency and it seemed like a little more proactive messaging. But then I'm not surprised with that, with where we've been in the last couple of years in this geographic area.
Right.
But it seemed like, yeah.
So go ahead. I mean, this area, that's part of it. You know, they've gotten some of these, like this very similar kind of setup in recent years. And you have to wonder, you know, how much does that increase their awareness and, you know, sort of the literacy of the nuances of the forecast event. It would be a really interesting thing to study, just how much they've learned from previous events and are bringing that insight into this event.
And I would love to know, for those people in this hurricane warning for this event this year, 2023, what is your primary source of weather information concerning this tropical system, hurricane to be? Yep. I would love to know that. That would be just a fascinating bit of information for me. And wherever, and again, it might be traditional broadcast television, it might be social, who knows? But that's something where I just love to know that. And I just like to know where the people are, because for us to reach people, we have to know where they are, what platforms they're using, what's their choice. So yeah, I can't wait to find out what your research is going to be after this whole thing is over. But obviously it's a critical 24 to 36 hour period for folks in that hurricane warning area to be prepared. And I think they're hearing the message based on what the traffic I'm seeing on the socials, but we'll find out. You're right. Really, nobody knows, I guess, at this point. But the other one, we got to.
I was going to say, I wonder if that primary source of information changes with proximity or perceived threat. I
don't know. I don't know. Is it a national source, the Weather Channel, Fox Weather? Is it a local source? Is it a local TV station? Is it your favorite YouTube weather entertainer? Is it, who knows what it is? And I'll say, you know, in Florida, if you look, have you ever heard of Mike's weather page? I want to say he has 1.2 million followers, and the TV people aren't even close to that in terms of social reach, not even close to that. And so, you know, is that, who knows? Again, we'll find out. But the other one on the board is Franklin and Klotzbach. What did he just tweet out, James A?
926 millibar central pressure, which is the lowest ever for a hurricane that far north, and good pressure records have been kept since 1979. So that's capturing a lot of big hurricanes in that time frame.
And it's just beautiful. I mean, goodness, it's stunningly beautiful. And maybe that's not the right word, but I think whether people know what we're talking about, just to look at that thing, and we're very thankful it should stay west of Bermuda and east of the United States, although they got to have some nasty rips on the East Coast with this thing. I mean, goodness, you know, that's stirring the pot. So,
and that's why Neil is out of the Outer Banks right now on a surfboard instead of.
Yeah, exactly. You know that's where he is. There's something up with him.
Yeah, he's reported that the waves are about 10 to 15 feet already. And it could get even better tomorrow. So yeah, it's rough. The waters are rough.
Hey, dude, man, surfs up. Just get the surfs up, man. Wow. Now that's we got to get a full report on his activities when he comes back next week. And it looks like a wave is about to come off the African continent. It looks like the Hurricane Center is giving that. The last time I saw it was a 50-50 chance of developing. That probably gains latitude and recurves. But again, we'll see. And we got a long way to go. This is the end of August, and we all know September and October can be pretty nasty. So we'll see how it goes. Other than that, James, you were bragging on your weather in Tulsa. Lower humidity in 80s. Is that what you said?
Yeah, we'll probably be back near 90 tomorrow. Normal's about 91, but the dew point will take a while to recover back into the 70s, but it'll probably happen over the holiday weekend. So compared to last Monday night, the Oklahoma Mesonet set their all-time highest heat index record with that 127 in J, which was 45 minutes after I said they set the record with Miami, Oklahoma, which is about 20 miles away.
So, Kim, how's your heat stress?
Much better. Yeah, we got that same welcome breath of fresh, cooler air here. And as a mother of very young children, I have to say the difference between Saturday when it was over 100 degrees and Sunday when it was pleasantly in the low 80s, it could not. If we're talking about impacts forecasting here, let's talk about impacts to your, I'm going to get some political language here, your everyday American family. this is where it counts, man. I had a much better day Sunday, and there's a dollar value to that. I know there is. This is what families care about. It was beautiful, and I will absolutely take it.
Awesome. So let's go up north before we go into Detroit with Hell's Armpit down there in Austin. So Katie, you're in the Arctic Circle up there. How's the weather?
Yes. Oh, it's amazing. Sitting in the 70s right now. We're going to maybe dip down towards the 60s there for Wednesday. No humidity, crisp, divine. You guys should all come up here. We'll have a party.
Did I see a frost advisory for the UP up there?
Upper Peninsula. Yeah, I think there were reports of temperatures in the 20s, actually. I'll have to go back and look at that from last night, but it's getting crispy out. So,
all right.
Yeah,
so
I'm excited.
Jen, is it crispy where you are?
Yep. Katie sent me some of that air. I love it. I had a little pep in my step today, and we're down to 49 for the low tonight. And it feels like football. I'm ready. It's first big weekend of football coming up, and my Lions are playing Saturday night. I'm ready. So it's my favorite time of year. You start getting that cooler air. But we do get warm again this weekend. It's like everybody gets one more little big climb, but oh yeah, it's great up here.
Now, who does Penn State play? East Aboga Community College, or what's the rival?
It is West Virginia.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Mm-hmm, for our
That's
first
a pretty
game.
Good first game.
Burning some sofas in West Virginia.
Oh boy. No, so I do, most of you know, I do weather support at the University of Alabama, and I have to be at every home game, and their first home game is Saturday, and looks like it's going to be really quiet. The Labor Day weekend looks pretty quiet, and it's always hot here in early September. I think we'll do upper 80s, low 90s, and that's an evening game. And I do think Alabama will play East Aboga Community College. I think it's Middle Tennessee State, something like that. But really? Troy, you know who comes in the next week? In the next week to Bryant-Denny Stadium? The Texas Longhorns.
There you go. It's the night over Austin. I was sitting here staring out the window. We got a nice view of the moon back up there, so I can see it through the window here. We were up to 100 to 102 in the Austin area today, but the big difference is, thank the rest of you, the dew points at this hour are about 53, and that makes a world of difference with this. But as James pointed out from Tulsa, that front, if it went south of here last evening, it will come back, and probably toward the latter part of the week, we'll see humidity come up, moisture levels start to go up, and temperatures actually go up a little bit. The upper level high has shown some sign in the last couple of days of rebuilding back in our direction by the end of the week and the holiday weekend. So, and we were 110 yesterday out at Austin Bergstrom International Airport. Thought I'd mention that.
Ouch. All right. Well, let's do picks of the week here. We're kind of running long in the tooth. So everybody's going to share something weather related that's cool, hip, exciting. So let's just go to James A, because he's got some television to do here in a few minutes. James, go.
Yeah, I have the, what do they actually call this thing? It's the hazard threats and impacts shapefiles, and posted the link to that on the National Weather Service Southern Region Tropical webpage. And it's a tab on that page, and there's no center line to draw people's minds to. It's just a probabilistic display of wind threat, storm surge threat, flooding rain threat, tornado threat. And you can also download the KMLs too if you have ArcGIS and want to build your own composite threat parameter and overlay that and be really dorky. Can you tell I'm in an ArcGIS class?
It's a good visual. Those are great visuals. I like that. Yeah. I'm going to have to steal some of that for the TV stuff here. All right. So, Kim, what you got for us this week?
So if everyone wants to have some insight into budget situations for your favorite federal agency, the American Institute of Physics actually has a really great newsletter you can subscribe to for free. It's called FYI. So just Google AIP FYI. And they have really periodic, whenever anything is moving, be it legislation that's authorizations or this appropriation stuff, they walk through it and it's very understandable. So I'm going to post the latest of what they are discussing for the NOAA budget and the Weather Service stuff. If you're interested in digging in, there is some publicly available digestible commentary.
Very good. And again, all the links will be up on the website, weatherbrains.com. So, Troy, give us something good. Go.
I'm going to leave you with the foghorn this week because
I
have nothing. I have nothing.
Wow. All right. So my pick was a tweet from our friend Daryl Hersman. You all know Daryl.
Yep.
And he, during the peak of the heat a few days ago, did you see the dew points in Iowa in the 90s?
In the cornfields?
Yeah. And
good old corn sweat.
There was some, is this valid? And I understand the theory behind that. But anyway, Daryl has been very good about some of these AWAS stations that were spitting out bogus numbers. And he said a tech came to one of the sites and the dew point magically dropped from 91 to 75 after the tech left. So there was some bad data floating around with some of these AWAS sites last week. And Daryl is really good about that. So that'll be my pick, is that tweet. Let's go to Jen. Jen, what you got for us this week?
I was sitting here going, I don't think I have a pick. Again, I forgot. And I'm like, why did I not get a pick? It's because I was spending a good 30 minutes on Katie's TikTok account watching those.
It's a time sink.
That's my pick. Katie's TikTok account, because it made me chuckle. I don't know what the movie was. Was it Betty Davis movie? And it was just a small 8-second clip. And you're like, this is what meteorologists say, because she was saying how much she loves snow. And then the other guy's like, you just shut your, what did he say? You shut your face or something like that.
You shut your stupid face.
That's it. It would make, I laughed. I was cackling. So if that's what TikTok was you, and that, and not the other junk, I would totally get on TikTok. But that's my pick.
Thank you.
Now I will say one of the new things I've been getting lately, in addition to the cussing and the dancing and the funny, it's these like middle-aged women that are scantily clad, and they'll say like, hello, boys, men ghost me when they find out I'm, and they're dancing half naked, and they'll point and it says, their age, like 55 or 58 or something. And I guess they target old men with this
stuff. Is this a weather-related TikTok at all?
No. I just turn on the TikTok and there's there's a feed like for you. Okay. It says for you. And so for an old guy like me, I guess that's the new thing they're trying to feed me is that. I mean, but it's this middle-aged woman dancing around half naked, talking about her age situation. So anyway, all right, Katie, I'm so sorry. You give us a good pick of the week. Go.
Oh, golly. Well, can I do one that's coming up this week? Because
do whatever you want to. This is your time. Go.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to be doing a TikTok on how a tornado helped save the White House and the nation. So we're going to be doing a little explainer on that history, which I've been excited to do. I've been getting a bunch of pictures together. So yeah, look for that on @weather_Katie on TikTok.
Okay. And anything else you want to plug here? This is your plug chance. Plug away. Go.
Okay. Well, I'm also so many.
We hope not to attract any creepers for you. You don't need any more creepers.
It'll be entertainment when I wake up in the morning. But yeah, I'm actually coming out with a new fandom forecast. It's going to be for Disney. So we're going to be going around to some of the Disney palaces and getting whatever weather it may be. Just know bibbity bobbity baseball sized hail is in there. So we're going to be talking more about that. Just some fun stuff coming up, trying to take people's minds off of the heat that's going to be coming back. So you can find me at so many random fandoms on YouTube or at @weather_Katie everywhere else.
All right, good deal. And let's see, I think everybody's got their pick in. Normally, Bill Murray would kind of promote the guest for the next few weeks here. But again, Bill is on a pub crawl. So if you're new here, we typically do this show Monday nights at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. Most people listen to the audio podcast, which is released Tuesday mornings. But we know that some of you watch, and you can watch us live on the YouTube channel or whenever you want to, youtube.com/weatherbrains. And if you want to get in touch with us, the email address for the show, it is email@weatherbrains.com. So on behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thanks a lot for listening. Have a great week and God bless. Thank you, Katie. That was a fun
Thanks,
show.
Katie.
That was
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you.
You guys are a blast. This is the most socializing I've had in ages. So this is fun.
You're all socialized now.
I'm going to go take a nap.